Dr. Seuss is one of the most famous authors of all time, writing countless books for children. Alright, he may have only written 60, but you didn't hear that from me. Haha. Seuss told stories which made absolutely no sense with plenty of made-up words, but some of these books became a huge success. Seuss' most iconic pieces are stories like Cat in the Hat, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Lorax, and Horton Hears a Who. But where most of his books, such as Fox and Socks and Hop on Pot, can be summed up with, haha, funny, make big sticky poo-poo rhyme. If you take a closer look under the surface, you can see that Seuss is one of the smartest authors ever, and knew exactly how to paint pictures of historical events and protests with his goofy characters. My name is Koala, and this is the genius of Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss told plenty of stories that I found entertaining as a kid, like The Sneetches and Yertle the Turtle, but if you read these stories back after passing 5th grade, you'll begin noticing the intelligent use of allegories to retell very important pieces of history. And by the way, in case you haven't passed 5th grade, it's okay. Allegory means parallel. Get off my channel. I'll start by reviewing The Sneetches, as its moral deserves being planted into the brains of people during these times. I wrote the script in July. The Sneetches take place in a world where creatures called the Sneetches live on plain white beaches. I know. Guys, the main characters in a book called The Sneetches are called The Sneetches. It's insane. I don't know. It's insane. How does he come up with this stuff? Some Sneetches are born with stars, but others have no stars upon Mars. The Sneetches with stars have cookouts and play ball with each other, and the starless are left alone by themselves. This is obviously a symbolism of segregation. Stars represent white people, and the starless are black people at the time, who were forced away from the white people until Martin Luther King convinced people how stupid these views are. I agree. Racism bad. Sadly, however, some people are still small enough to this day to think that because someone has different skin color, they must be a lesser person, which recently in May resulted in the horrible death of George Floyd and many others. Sorry about Dr. Seuss. Onto the scene arrives Sylvester McMonkey McBean, who's a better businessman than Jay Schlatt. That's his tag. He takes advantage of the situation with his nifty star-on machine, and he profits off the starless by turning them into starred Sneetches. But now the OG stars, they have nothing to segregate themselves by. So McBean shows them his new nifty star-off machine. Now all the starless Sneetches, who were previously starred, they brag about how stars are out of style, and the starless Sneetches are clearly the hippest Sneetches on the beaches. For the rest of the day, the Sneetches proceeded to pay McBean until they were all out of money, switching star on, star off, star on, star off. And McSchlatt goes off into the sunset with all his money, shouting about how you can never teach a Sneetch. But McBean was wrong, because the Sneetches did learn. The Sneetches learned that every Sneetch is the best Sneetch on the beach, because under the skin, everyone's just the same. We're all just a bag of bones covered in rotting flesh. Incredible. Truly poetic, Dr. Seuss. Next up is the Lorax. I'll keep this one brief because this is one of Seuss's most famous allegories. Lorax is about how greed can warp people. In the story, the Once comes to a place with trees, and the Once finds out how he can make money from the beautiful tree tufts. The Once begins to chop the trees down without replanting anything. The Lorax then shows up and tries to stop the Once, but the Once doesn't stop for even a moment, because if he's making money, what else matters? Things progressively get worse and worse, and the Swami Swans get caught in the smog and leave. So does everyone else. No trees are left. The Lorax becomes sad, for he has nothing left to live for anymore. So he, too, leaves. It is then when the Once finally understands. The Once are so caught up in his greed that he single-handedly wiped out the tree population. It's like what they say. You don't know what you have until it's gone. It goes without saying that the Lorax is about how humans have been warped by greed and cut down trees for their own benefit and caused irreversible damage, something Seuss predicted way back in 1971. A very popular example of this greed is when a lot of people decided to burn down part of the Amazon rainforest to pack cows for food and such. And I know a lot of people are doing everything they can to fight this, Greta Thunberg, Mark Rober, Mr. Beast. But Seuss's point still stands. Maybe if we had listened to the Lorax's message, global warming wouldn't be a thing. Third on my list is Yertle the Turtle. This book's a little hard to follow, so I'll walk you all through this. In a place called Salamasan, Yertle the Turtle was the ruler. All his people were happy. Everyone living in the pond was happy. But then one day, Yertle decided he wants more. He wanted to rule more things. He claimed everything he could physically see he owned, which is an interesting concept for ruling, in my opinion, but apparently multiple fictional characters have had the same philosophy. So did Hitler. Anyways, Yertle gets the idea to invade Poland. Yertle gets the idea to force the citizens to lift him higher by standing on their backs. Ah, what a sight! Exclaimed Adolf the Turtle, seeing near and afar, for if he squinted close enough, he could see to Warsaw. Yertle now ruled over the cows, mules, a house, a mouse, some blueberry bush, and a cat. Yertle owned so much more, but at the bottom of the sack there lay a turtle named Mac. Mac sighed and said, Sir Yertle, how long do we stay here under you? I don't like this very much. But Yertle scoffed and ordered more turtles. Taking over Norway and Belgium, he took over Luxembourg, the Dutch. France surrendered. Haha, funny. Classic comedy. Anyway, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Yertle pronounced that he is king of the trees, for he owned all the birds and he owned all the bees. Then Mac at the bottom asks again, "Why must we do this? Please give me a break. I am in pain. The Holocaust is a bad idea. Down here we should all have rights." Yertle's again angered, talking down upon Mac, saying no one is higher than him. He's never been to my high school, apparently. Ha. Yertle spots the moon and says, "I want to own that!" Yes, so he takes over Yugoslavia, Greece, but there are so many turtles on the stack. Mac has enough of his reign. The citizens have enough of his reign. Mac at the bottom of the stack burps, which shakes the stack and throws Hitler into the dirt, where he's now king of the mud. The turtles are happy again, and in case I didn't make this obvious enough, the story's about Hitler and how the German citizens felt about his rule. Seuss wrote the story not even 10 years after World War II, showing that he knew what was fair and just, and he knew how to teach kids what's right and just. Finally, this last story is my personal favorite in Seuss's catalog. This book is one of Seuss's most obscure, which saddens me. I've never owned this book. I've never met someone who owned this book. It sits alone, forgotten. But I have a VHS of this book from 1995 that my mom bought for me when I was 6, I believe. This book is one of my favorite because it truly is the best written story Seuss has. And it manages to make an entertaining story which directly parallels a real-life event, which all of these other ones have, but this to a greater scale. This story is written about what side of toast you butter. There are two sides to the story. The blue yucks and the red, well, technically orange, but it fits a narrative, zooks. The yucks represent the capitalist United States, led by Grandfather, who represents JFK. And the red zooks are the communist USSR, led by Van Itch, representing Nikita Khrushchev. This story is about how Grandfather is the keeper of the Berlin Wall, you heard me right. Grandfather defends the yucks from attackers from the opposing side, but the zooks begin to attack Grandfather. So Grandfather decides to go to his superiors and tell them about this, and they say, "Oh, 'tis not a problem, you see, for we have a new weapon of mass destruction for ye." So he comes in with his triple sling JZ, and shows Van Itch that he isn't playing no games. But Van Itch the next day comes back with his Jigger Rock Snatch'em. So Grandfather leaves to his superiors and says that he failed, so they proclaim, it's okay, we'll make a new gum. We won't ever stop until Van Itch is shun. We will not be defeated by them, those dirty old clowns. The zooks who eat toast with butter side down. So Grandfather goes to the wall with his new weapon, the Kickapoo powered by Daniel, the Cockapoo Spaniel. He goes to the wall while yucks chant his name. They will fight for what they believe, capitalism and butter side up. But Van Itch has more weapons and flaunts his new gun, which is elephant powered. Yeah, this puppy can fit 2 hecking elephants, hello? Defeated. Grandfather goes back to his superiors, and they say, the big war is coming, and you are to begin it. And this time, you are certain to win it. My boys in the back have made a machine, surely, to defeat those communist thieves. He marches to the wall with his UFO on stilts, yes, really, and is met by Van Itch, who has the same exact machine. For one last time, Grandfather goes back to get a new machine from his superiors, and his superiors reassuringly say, look, just drop a bomb on him, all right, or something. Like, I don't know, dude. This is the 4th time we've had this discussion. And they hand him the big bomb boomeroo. While everyone is filing into bunkers, Grandfather hops on the wall to drop the bomb, but Van Itch is there with another boomeroo, and they slowly dare each other to shoot first, while the grandson is forced to watch. This is where Seuss ends the book, but the story isn't over. In real life, this directly parallels the event in October 1961 at Checkpoint Charlie, where the U.S. sends their tanks to the Berlin Wall. The USSR saw this and quickly did the same. The citizens not knowing if this would mean Armageddon or not. Luckily, Kennedy saw the situation, called Khrushchev, and convinced both sides to back their tanks up by an inch, then another until the crisis was averted. But Seuss doesn't show this in the book. He doesn't need to. He's proved his point already. In his eyes, war will never lead to anything good. Seuss took a children's book about toast and butter and showed children around the world about the Cold War and how war has no winners. In conclusion, Dr. Seuss, despite writing childish-seeming books about a man in brown clothes who thinks he's a moose, was actually one of the greatest authors of all time and will forever be remembered, not only for his goofy stories, but for the true genius of his literature. Oh yeah, and subscribe. I'm trying to beat PewDiePie to 109 million, so yeah, let's go.